are now listening to the War Report Podcast Network.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the College Loop Podcast, episode 221 of the College Loop Podcast. I'm Larck, watching on Twitter, here to talk to you all today with the latest in Auburn football news. And we're just going to get started right away with Blake Woodby giving his announcement. We talked about a little bit on the live stream from Sunday that he had a big announcement coming, and it was his top three. He announced that his top three is going to be, of course, the Auburn Tigers, Maryland, and Oregon. Auburn, of course, being the favorite. Multiple sites have him crystal balled and predicted to go to Auburn. Would not shock me at all if he did, because I'm pretty sure everyone is pretty much expecting it. Of course, his teammate Bryce Diaz has, of course, already committed to Auburn. He's going to be a very athletic linebacker from the class 2025. But for today's episode of the College Loop, we're going to continue our way too early season preview series talking about the Oklahoma Sooner. Words are hard. The Oklahoma Sooners coming into Jordan-Hare Stadium for the fifth game of the regular season. Of course, Oklahoma's going to be fresh off of a game against the Tennessee Volunteers. Of course, they get to escape going to Neyland, but they do have to come in the Jordan-Hare Stadium. And again, what is criminally not a night game for this game. It baffles me, and I'm going to move my mic a little bit further from my face so I don't get too rambunctious about this. But it does bother me, really, that they didn't give the satisfaction of giving Auburn the night game for Oklahoma. It's their first away game as a member of the SEC, and they're not going to be playing in Jordan-Hare Stadium in a night environment. It's crazy to me that they didn't do that, but it's neither here nor there. But coming in from last year, Oklahoma is coming in with going off of a 10-3 record, going 7-2 in the Big 12. Of course, that last loss coming in the Cheez-It Bowl to the Arizona Bearcats, or Wildcats. I say Bear Down, but Wildcats. Yeah, but going into this year in the offseason, and of course, right now, Oklahoma and Texas are officially a part of the SEC. I mean, it has been something that's been said since 2021 that this was happening, but finally a part of it. Oklahoma is going into this year with an extension already signed to Brent Venables, the guy with a 16-10 record. Never really understood the hype around Brent Venables. I still don't think he's a great head coach, but that's not really for me to decide. That's Oklahoma AD who just went ahead and did that. I'm just not going to be too. He just seems too. What's the word I'm looking for here? I don't even want to say he's even Gus Malzahn tier. Really, I don't think Oklahoma will ever be the Oklahoma Sooners under Brent Venables, and of course, I just never saw it. I never thought it was a great head coaching move. Of course, he did go 10-3, so who am I to decide that? But I just think a lot of things went favorable their way. I mean, they beat Texas, and Texas kind of lost that game themselves. They beat West Virginia, which I'm currently in West Virginia right now. I'm wearing the West Virginia hat. The abyss behind me is a mountain and trees, so that's not a green screen. That is just a very dark background I have going on here with the night sky. But the losses, I think, kind of speak a lot of volumes to how the season kind of went. They lost to Kansas, and a close loss, but a loss that you kind of look down upon because they should have beaten Kansas. Kansas dealt with a lot of injuries last year, and Oklahoma lost, and they also lost to Oklahoma State in the last ever Bedlam, at least for the Big 12. We don't know if the Bedlam will ever return or not, but those are two embarrassing losses that really are going to stick with this program for a while until Brent Venables is winning in the SEC, which I'm not too privy that he can win in the SEC. I think he could be the next, I don't want to say Sam Pittman. I almost said Sam Pittman. I'm trying to think of coaches that just kind of had a great year in year two and then kind of fell off. Or Ed Orgeron, not Ed Orgeron. He's a tier above Ed Orgeron. I'm trying to think of a level of coaching that he possesses and that he is, but I'm just not high on him. I think that the extension was stupid. But to get into the game, the big key factor into this game is looking at the quarterback situations for both teams. Peyton Thorne coming in for Auburn is going to be the incumbent starter. It didn't have the best year last year, but looking to improve upon that. Jackson Arnold on the other side of the ball for Oklahoma. He got his first ever start against Arizona in that Cheez-It Bowl, and he did not really impress that much. Of course, he looked like a freshman, which freshmen look like freshmen. And that's not a bad thing, but freshmen with a lot of hype can't just look like freshmen and everyone just kind of look past it. But last year for the Oklahoma Sooners, he appeared in 6 games, had 1 start, 44-69 for a 63.8% completion percentage, 563 yards, 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Also had 116 yards and a rushing touchdown. Decent, okay stats. The touchdown to interception ratio is not really what you want because you have one more and there's a bug flying right across the screen, getting some airtime for himself. Currently on my light, so that's cool. Yeah, this is going to be a true test for what really what Oklahoma will be offensively. Jeff Lebby has, of course, left Oklahoma, has now joined the SEC head coaching ranks as Mississippi State's now head coach, trying to rekindle the offensive magic that they had with Mike Leach not too long ago. May he rest in peace. Put him in the College Football Hall of Fame, you cowards, do it. And of course, going even further back than that, Dan Mullen was, of course, an offensive mastermind when he was at Mississippi State. And I'm going to kill a moth in a second on camera if it does not get out of my face. Yeah, this episode's off to an outstanding start right away. Looking at Oklahoma as a team, though, they are returning a lot of starters. They're returning 12 starters, of course, 2 of those being their kicker and their punter. They're returning 6 guys on the defense side of the ball, 4 guys on the offense side of the ball. Looking at the offense, of course, Jackson Arnold is going to be a kind of a new look quarterback because he's only ever seen 1 game fully in a Sooners uniform. Returning 4 starters, being Gavin Sawchuk, Jaleel Farouk, Nick Anderson, and Andrell Anthony. And those 4 guys alone, they were 43% of the offensive yardage last year for the Sooners, and also 74% of their touchdowns last year. Like, this is a really good core group of skill position players for Oklahoma. Thing is, they're not returning any starters in the offensive line. They lost a lot of those guys, of course, but that's a decent group for a young quarterback who's going to look to develop into a more difficult conference. And of course, the Big 12 has always been a huge, like, big offensive latent conference, but Jackson Arnold came out against Arizona, did not look the best. I've heard good things about him through the spring thus far, and of course they picked up I don't remember his name now, Casey Thompson, who on his 25th year of college football, trying to rekindle his love for college football, just doing it year after year after year, never losing the college spirit, I guess. But Jalil Farouk is a guy I'm going to be looking for Auburn to really kind of scheme for. I mean, he's a guy who's going to be playing wide receiver. He's going to take some, returning snaps as well. He's going to be the return guy. He's their speed threat. He is going to get some handoffs. He is going to be an offensive weapon for Auburn to kind of try to get acquainted with and kind of shut down and lock down and kind of keep on the interior. And of course, Auburn has a lot of fast dudes that can keep up with him. You're going to look at guys like Keontae Scott, who's probably going to be on him most of the game. And of course, Gavin Sawchuk, who is a very good running back who's going to be coming to the SEC after rushing for 700 yards. Of course, didn't hit the 1,000-yard. He kind of was a 2-headed monster last year with their other running back. But having 3 wide receivers who have like experience and have been starters before is really good for a young quarterback. And of course, Auburn's going into the game complete opposite. I mean, of course, Condre Everett-Smith is a veteran, and Robert Lewis is a veteran, but they're not veterans in terms of being an Auburn wide receiver. You're going to have new faces. You're going to have Cam Coleman. You're going to have Perry Thompson getting in there. You're going to have Malcolm Simmons, Bryce King. You're going to have all those guys getting fresh looks and Auburn uniforms. Of course, they're going to be they already have played 4 games at this point, but everything is still new whenever you've not played teams who are challenging. Of course, I'm not going to say like Cal couldn't be a challenge and Arkansas couldn't like surprise the world and be a better team than what everyone's expecting them to be, but Oklahoma is going to be a top 25 team going into that Auburn game, and Auburn could very well be on the brink of being a top 25 team. This is the game they played before they played Georgia. And of course, they have to travel to Athens to do that. That's going to be their first away game. Is the next game after Oklahoma, which is Georgia. That game is going to weigh in a lot on what Auburn's psyche is. Of course, they're going to have back tough games. Of course, they have a bye week mixed in there before Missouri, but you have over the next 3 weeks of this of this series, Oklahoma, then it's Georgia, then it's Missouri. That's a tough 3-game stretch, and you have to stay focused on every single one of them. Of course, you get a week break. You get 2 weeks for Missouri, but you only get 1 for the other 2. And Oklahoma, again, defensively, Brent Venables is the defensive minded coach. And of course, he produced a very good pass defense last year for the Sooners. They finished 46th nationally in scoring defense, 42nd in rush defense, 17th in pass defense. Of course, they only lost 1 defensive back that was a key contributor to their defense last year. So, and finished 77th overall, which that math doesn't really check out to me, really. But you look at their returning production. Of course, they returned 6 guys on the defense. A lot of those guys in the front 7, and got the rest of them in the backfield. But they returned 4/5, 4 out of 5 of their leading tacklers, 3 out of 4 of their interceptions leaders, and their top 3 sack leaders. This is going to be a defense that's going to really test this Auburn offensive line. And of course, there are a bunch of guys who are, again, they're going to have guys looking to improve on how they played last year. You're going to have Percy Lewis, who's going to be a newbie, who has a lot of experience in the SEC, but again, this is going to be his first time in an Auburn offense, and first year in an Auburn offense. I don't want to say his first time playing, but it's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough game. It's going to be a hard fought game. You're expecting whoever loses this game gets kicked out of top 12 submissions and no top 25 votes, but you probably got a few. Then this is one of those games you look at, and I mean, it's something we talked about last year with some of the earlier games with Texas A&M last year. I think was like the big one. Kind of looking at how can Auburn prove to the nation that they are a team not to be trifled with, that they're not a team to look down upon anymore, that this is now a new look Auburn team. This is an Auburn team that means business. This is a team that can compete for the SEC, maybe not this year, but maybe next year. And I don't want to get into like that headspace of being like, let's wait till next year. But in 2013, and of course I make this, every time I make this comparison, it always irks me whenever it doesn't work out. But in 2013, Auburn was fresh off a 3-9 season, played Texas A&M, beat Texas A&M in an upset, took down Johnny Manziel, and the announcers called it right there. They announced to the college football world that they are back. This could be that game. This could be the game that proves to the SEC that Auburn's not a team that can be a pushover. And of course, they proved that a little bit last year. Georgia and Alabama both struggled with Auburn. Auburn teams that they both clowned all the way to all the way until they almost lost. And of course, Bama fans are always going to be talking about the 4th and 31 play, but you can't forget the fact that should not have been a play that needed to happen for Alabama to win that game. This was not an Auburn team that was going to be a giant killer and be one of the top 10 teams in the country. They're a team that we're going to bite your ankles and until you trip over and fall. And they took advantage. They took advantage of it, but didn't finish. This team could do that. This team is more talented than last year's. Of course, the SEC is always going to be talented and always working to get more talent into their rosters. And of course, Oklahoma, they recruited well last year, 12th in the nation in recruiting, 20th in the portal. Picked up a lot of great future prospects for them. I don't think you're going to see many of the freshmen guys coming up get real experience. Of course, you're going to get a 5-star. I have David Stone, their 5-star defensive lineman. I think he might get into rotation early, but everyone else, I think you're going to be waiting on to really see what Oklahoma can do. Transporter-wise, there are a few guys I think kind of came in to kind of build up the depth of the team. But overall, this game is probably the toughest one thus far. And of course, it's just because Auburn has a pretty easy first 4 games of the season. I've been looking at this game a lot. This was the game I probably spent the most time kind of looking at and kind of thinking about what Auburn could do to win. What can they, how can they win? Can they win for starters? But I don't know. It's just so tough because it's one of those games where I even have a 50-50 mark for Auburn on the game for Auburn and Oklahoma. And what Auburn needs to do is really run the ball. I think that's going to be the key to this game is running the ball. And of course, we're looking at last year. I said it earlier. They finished 42nd in rush defense. And of course, they're bringing back a lot of those guys. They changed their defensive coordinator around. So you're looking at trying to get momentum early on in this game, and you're going to do that with Jarquez Hunter. You're going to do it with Damari Alston. You're going to do it with Jeremiah Cobb. You're going to do it probably with some of the legs of Peyton Thorne. I think you're going to see some of Peyton Thorne in this game running the ball. You probably won't see it a lot more, but whenever a team has a weakness, it's best to exploit it. And the best thing to do with that is run the crap out of the ball and kind of prove. I don't know if y'all can hear that plane. I can probably see it as it kind of goes above me. It's very loud to me. But I look at this game and kind of thinking about it. The 50-50 games I have on the schedule are, of course, Oklahoma and Texas A&M. And this opens up a very tough month of October for Auburn because it's the end of September. Looking at it, I want to give Auburn benefit of the doubt. I think it'll be a rough and rowdy game. I don't think this game is going to be more than a double-digit win for either team. I think Auburn drops this one. I think that they fall. I think it's 27-24. I think it's very close, but close. And I think it's a good enough loss for everyone to kind of walk away with like, hey, we're getting somewhere. We're doing something special. But that's just how I am right now. Of course, that could very well change after Tennessee and Oklahoma play. If Tennessee comes out and whoops Oklahoma, I'm probably going to be back on the Auburn starting off 5-0. Just get them in the CFP National Championship. There's all that bugging stuff that we love to do over here. But I think Oklahoma comes in. I think they just get a close win. That's just kind of where I am. I think that you're going to see offenses kind of show out a little bit more. And of course, I think Auburn's defense is very, very good. It's kind of just seeing how the pieces work. And of course, that'll be their first real test of the season. And I think going into a Georgia game with one close loss, I think could do well for a team, kind of get back and punch Georgia in the mouth. That's kind of what you're going to want the most. But that kind of does it. Next comeback Thursday, and we're gonna be doing a kind of talk about the Oklahoma game a little bit. Kind of gonna go through Auburn's running back room. Damari Alston, Jarquez Hunter, and Jeremiah Cobb. How are they going to perform this season? What can we expect from their stats? And who's going to be the workhorse? Even though it's going to be Jarquez Hunter. But when we get back, we're going to finish up the show talking about some baseball recruiting, and of course, another Auburn student becoming words are hard. Suni Lee going back to the Olympics. There we go. I was trying to be a little mysterious about it, but I'm sure everyone already knows. But we'll get right back after this commercial. Are you tired of having to rummage through just clothes after clothes after clothes looking for something to wear? Are you tired of your friends making fun of you for your terrible fashion sense? Well, do we have the shirt for you? Go to thewarreport.com, get your laptop out and do it right now. Go to the shop and get your very own Feelin' Loopy t-shirt as well as your college loop hat, and you can get both of them for only $25 each. Plus shipping and handling, of course. But with that, now back to your regular scheduled program. And of course, War Report shop. Go to it. First page is the hat. Second page is the shirt. Best things to get for any upcoming birthdays, any upcoming gift giving holidays. Of course, they're the most comfortable shirt that they're going to wear in their entire life. Why wouldn't you get that for them? And of course, the most comfortable hat ever as well. Be the perfect matchup. If you're looking for something cool for Halloween in a couple of months, you can go with the college loot fan wearing the hat and the t-shirt. Be very cool. And of course, let us know if you're wearing the merch, if you're repping the merch, and hashtag feeling loopy, feeling without the G. And of course, we'll shout you out on the show if you're repping the merch, repping the brand of the college loop. And of course, that's the second best way you can support the show. The best way you can support the show is, of course, liking, subscribing, and commenting right here on YouTube. Of course, giving us good ratings on all of the audio platforms that you're listening to us on. Of course, we're up to above 800 subscribers now. It's really cool to see that 800 number next to our name. But kind of going on with the show and kind of winding it down, getting out of here. Baseball picked up another transfer in Jet Johnston out of Texas A&M. Bringing in national champions, always going to be a great thing. Played third baseman. He pitched a little bit too. From what we saw last year. Didn't really get a lot of PT, but very valuable piece. Was a top 10 at his position and recruiting. Top 100 player, I believe, overall. But huge pickup for Butch Thompson. Glad to see they're still on the recruiting trail. Glad to see both Diamond Sports are really going to the portal, and really love to see that. And then last bit of news, and we're going to get out of here right around the 20-minute mark. Gymnastics news: Suni Lee back in the Olympics. Just want to give a huge shout to Suni Lee, one of the greatest athletes to ever come through Auburn, and build a statue. Why not? Let's just do that. Huge up to Suni Lee. All the meets I got to see with her were awesome. Suni and the entire Auburn gymnastics never failed to impress and just wow the crowd and just how good they were. And it's great to see that she's going to be doing that at the highest level that an athlete can possibly do that. It's going to be at the worldwide stage. So congratulations, Suni Lee. Everyone should be wishing her luck and more gold medals to come. More bragging rights for Auburn and their recruiting trail from gymnastics. But that being said, that kind of does it for this installment of the College Loop Podcast. I'm of course Dylan Larck, Boateng on Twitter, and of course Dylan Larck on Instagram at DYLENLARCK. And of course, don't forget to check me out right here in the College Loop Podcast. Where you usually like, comment, and subscribe. Leave your thoughts on Auburn versus Oklahoma. Do you think Auburn gets a statement win in Week 5, right before the Georgia game? And leave your predictions below. Why not? And of course, if you're loving the show, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Again, just can't say that enough. It's something I just cannot overstate. But of course, if you're tired of seeing my face, completely understandable. My girlfriend even gets tired of it sometimes. She's like, can you just go somewhere else and talk about sports somewhere else? But there's audio versions of the show as well on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, of course, Amazon Music. With all that being said, thanks for watching this installment of the College Loop Podcast. War Eagle, and again, thanks for watching.